let's start. I'm gonna my clicker. Okay, so welcome to the webinar. My name is Miggy. I'm the managing partner at Huskee Digital. We're an inbound marketing agency based in Makati. So I'm actually in the office right now. Quick reminder lang, you are free to record or take screenshots anytime that you want. We're going to be recording this webinar and uploading it on our website or our YouTube channel. So in case I said something interesting or you want to be able to review the things that we're going to go over today, feel free to just watch it again. So yeah, that would be great. We have, I think we have about 21 subscribers on our YouTube channel so far. We're really close to 1 million subscribers, which is our goal for the year. So every subscription to our YouTube channel counts. So thank you. And again, I really appreciate you guys. So now we're at about 71 participants. I'm very thankful that you're spending your time with me this afternoon. The topic around marketing data and metrics is something that I feel very passionate about because I grapple with it every day. It's something that I discuss with my clients also every day. So it's something that is constantly in my head. And when I first thought of coming up with something like this, and when we advertised it, I was just very surprised to know that there were a lot of people who also felt strongly about it and wanted to learn about it also. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys. In case you didn't know, this is an initiative under the Bounce Back Blueprint. So the Bounce Back Blueprint, it's an easy to follow framework to help you navigate through uncertain times. It follows the inbound marketing methodology, which we've tackled in many pieces of content previously. So you're free to check that out. And basically, what it is is a set of strategies, guides, and cheat sheets to help you rebuild your marketing efforts. So to be honest, these are the sets of strategies that we're using for Huskee and for our sets of clients. And then a few weeks ago, we thought it would be super helpful to share with other business owners and other marketers. If you download the blueprint, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 6 pieces of really amazing content. You're going to be able to use our customer persona profile worksheet. You'll be able to use our Facebook ads worksheet. We gave a set of marketing resources that we like to share also with our clients. We created a really cool set of lead magnet ideas and presented some very interesting inbound case studies. And we also have the PDF copy of the kickoff video or kickoff presentation that we set about 2 weeks ago. So this is week number 3 of after we launched the blueprint, and I'm so happy to say that there are over 210 businesses already with our blueprint. So this is as of yesterday. So I haven't been able to check yet today. So that's super crazy. We didn't realize just how much this would mean to so many people, and we want to be able to continue the momentum. So if you're here because you first downloaded the blueprint or you kind of saw me on Facebook talk about it, thank you again for downloading it, and I hope it's been helpful. And for the participants who have not been able to download it yet, I really think it's amazing and it should be able to help out your business one way or another. So again, this is the set of strategies that my group is using for ourselves and for our clients. So it's the exact playbook, and I don't see how it can't benefit you guys also. So if you want to learn more, you can go to our website right now. That's huskeedigital.com/bounceback2020. You don't need to pay for the blueprint. It's absolutely free. And again, we have tons of resources available for you. So we're very passionate about marketing in case it's not obvious yet. And any help that we can extend to other people during this time, I think would be, really good. All right, game. So let's talk about the webinar. I want to be able to discuss just 5 things, and I don't have a lot of time to do it. So I'm really just going to be touching on the essentials. So I want to be able to talk about which marketing metrics are important and what do they mean exactly, what you should be looking for at each step of your campaign, We'll also talk briefly about how you can set up your own marketing analytics. So what are the tools that you will need? And my two favorite questions. How do I calculate for ad spend and how do I spy in a competition? We made this webinar for first-time marketers and advertisers. If you have some degree of experience, I hope that this can be value-adding to you too. We also tailored this for business owners. So for my fellow business owners listening, I really do understand the situations that we typically face where we need to be able to make decisions under intense uncertainty. So hopefully with this webinar, you're able to gain the clarity that you need to make better marketing decisions. Now, I was just telling Bianca, my colleague earlier, that there is just so many ways to tackle this topic. In fact, I won't be able to cover everything in an hour. So just to manage everyone's expectations, we're going to be talking about marketing metrics from your customer's journey on social media, specifically Facebook, all the way to your website. So if you have a website, this is great. Now, if you don't have a website, which which I'm pretty sure, sorry, that you're going to ask later on, that's okay. But hopefully, after you see what you can possibly know about your website, this whole talk inspires you to start your website. So yeah, just to be able to give better expectations for the participants today. So just a little bit about inbound marketing. Excuse me. Inbound marketing is about putting empathy first. It's really about delivering opportunities that can have a positive impact on your customers. And for us, as a marketing team, it's really not enough for us to just drive people to your website and leave them as is. You have to be able to continue to help, support, and empower them, well after they become a customer. And inbound marketing gives you the sort of framework and the methodologies to allow you to do just that. Now, again, fair warning, I can't turn you into a analytics pro after just 1 hour. It would be super cool though if I could. I probably would be stinking rich just be able to have that ability, but unfortunately I can't. The world of marketing analytics is super crazy, as you're about to find out in these next few minutes. But it's a lot of fun once you get the hang of it. So I recall the very first time I really had to start grappling with marketing analytics for myself and for my clients, and it was a tall order. I mean, it was very difficult. But after a few years of getting used to it, of immersing myself into it, I find it more fun than anything. And hopefully, your biggest takeaway here is that it inspires you to track and measure your data better and listen to the stories it tells you. So that's exactly how I like to look at it. All of the numbers that I see on my dashboards, all of the trend lines and the percentages, it tells me a story of my customer. It tells me a story of their journeys. It tells me a story of their struggles with interacting with my business. And going back to the whole point of this talk, where I want to be able to serve my customers better with inbound marketing, I feel like learning the numbers is core to that. So don't worry if you end up flat on your face like this. That's fine. That's almost me on a daily basis as I try to figure things out. Again, our goal right now is not to be a pro. You're not going to be a pro at this after 1 hour. Our goal is just really, being able to pick up the important and essential information so that we can make the changes and allow ourselves, not to be surprised like this anymore by metrics or numbers that we're not so familiar with. All right, game. So I talked about this in a previous webinar, but I want to be able to just touch on it a little bit. If you want the full webinar on pay-per-click advertising, we did an amazing, I think it was about 60-minute session. We did a 60-minute session, yeah, correct, the other day. So you're free to watch that on our YouTube channel as well. So pay-per-click advertising, very simply, PPC stands for pay-per-click. It's a model of internet marketing in which an advertiser pays a certain fee each time an ad is clicked. Now, this is exactly how these specific platforms make their money. Okay, so Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, the reason why these companies are billion-dollar companies is because of pay-per-click advertising. Now, pay-per-click advertising versus traditional means of media, like, for example, TV or radio or newspapers, like the olden times, it works because you're able to target a very specific audience. You're able to put your ads only in front of your most valuable customers, and you're able essentially to just zero in on who is most important to you. So instead of just targeting the entire male population, you're able to target the people who are most closer to who are most close, sorry, most closer, who are the most close to the kinds of people that you want to be able to market and sell to. Now, I feel like the biggest contribution of pay-per-click advertising, it's not so much the behavioral targeting that you're able to do, but more so the ability to measure almost every action a customer takes, down to the last click. Literally everything that they do, from the first time that they see your ad to the point where they make a purchase on your website, you're able to track that down to the last click. And that's really, really powerful stuff. This is extremely important because of the old adage, which is essentially what gets measured gets managed. And if I'm looking at my marketing funnel and I'm looking at the numbers, for as long as I can measure it properly, I can manage it and I can influence it positively for my business. Because, again, at the end of the day, and I like to tell this to our clients, if our marketing efforts don't translate into sales, it doesn't matter how gimmicky or how creative it was. It's a bad marketing campaign. Good marketing campaigns drive conversions. That's the simple truth. And our job is to ensure that we do create campaigns that are witty, that are very insightful and helpful, but measure all of those steps to ensure profitability for our clients. So that's why it's important, because basically what gets measured gets managed. So Miggy, what do you need to measure then? What are the metrics? I want you guys to be able to have the right frame of mind first, the right mindset. And I like to revolve around this thought that on average, it takes customers about 7 to 13 interactions with you in an online space before they take any sort of action. Now, if you think that's a ridiculous number, you just have to be able to audit your own purchasing behavior to realize that this is very close to the truth of your own purchasing behavior. So just imagine a scenario where you're discovering a brand for the very, very first time. So I'm not talking like Jollibee or those big important brands. I'm talking about first time brands. Never seen or heard of them before. This is your first interaction with them. And if you audit yourself, you're going to realize that you do tend to jump around from online platform to online platform before you even make that decision to ask about their product or look up their menu or make a purchase. Okay, you make all of these interactions, and my job as a marketer is that I want to be able to measure every step and see what you need to improve on. If my mindset is, okay, I need to make sure that I interact with this person 7 to 13 times before they do anything that's important for my business, I want to make sure that I'm measuring each of those steps, and I can ensure that I can improve each of those steps. So just to share very briefly, so we talked about this in our previous webinar, and I'll go through it just quickly. This is our paid advertising campaign framework, and this is what we share with our clients. So every campaign, every paid advertising campaign or PPC campaign has to have 3 components. You have to have an acquisition campaign where you're doing 2 activities. You're prospecting and you're re-engaging with customers. You have a retargeting campaign where you're inspiring your warm audience to take action and complete a purchase or submit a form or register in your site, whatever activity is important to you in your business. And then last, you have a retention campaign. You're building brand love by encouraging past customers to interact with you again. So at any given time, right? At any given time, our clients have more or less these 3 kinds of campaigns running simultaneously. Now, for each campaign, I have a very specific goal. And just for simplicity's sake, let's just wrap it up like this. In my acquisition campaigns, my goal is to sell the click. Meaning, I'm not trying to sell the product the very first time that they interact with me. I'm just trying to get them to my website. And side note, I feel like this is the biggest mistake most pay-per-click advertisers or most marketers who are trying to do the online thing. This is what they get wrong more often than not. That when they first run their advertising campaigns, they try to sell the product on the first click or on the first interaction. That's crazy. That's like trying to get married on the first date. It's great if you're able to do that, right? Props to you. But on average, you're not going to see that happen all the time. So sell the click during acquisition campaigns. And then when you're doing the retargeting, that's where you sell the product. So you get your warm audience and then you show them advertisements again, and then that's where you get them to buy. So that's where the 7 to 13 interactions kind of happen during this stage. And then of course the retention, where you sell the brand love or you sell what it means to be associated with a brand like you. Now, if it's not obvious, each campaign has to have a different objective because you're tracking something differently at each stage. And you have to be mindful of this because you have to judge it based on what your objective was. So for my acquisition campaigns where I'm just selling the click, my client can't possibly expect me to hold, purchases as my standard just because this is not the place to be selling. This is not the place to be purchasing. And that has to be clear because that's what makes my client judge whether or not we did good or we did bad if we were doing the things that we said that we were going to do during a certain stage. So related to this, I want to be able to discuss media buying models. So just a fair warning, I'm going to get a little technical and you're probably not going to be able to absorb this entirely. So I recommend that you probably revisit this at some other time or you do a little bit more research on it. So I just want to be able to touch on it this afternoon. Media buying models, basically, it's how advertising platforms charge you. You pay per result. So every time that you advertise on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, you only pay them for certain results. And what those results are, I'm about to discuss. The most popular buying model is CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. So M is the Roman numeral for 1,000, if you didn't know that. That's grade school. It's the most popular buying model because it most resembled how billboards and TV channels used to sell their advertisements. So in the olden days, when you were to buy let's say a placement in a billboard, the company that owned the billboard would tell you, hey, on average, you're getting about 100,000 eyeballs on our advertisements, and we charge you X amount for every 100,000, right? And if you're gonna do it 5 times this week, or let's say 5 months, it's 5 months times the 100,000 impressions. So that's what Facebook and YouTube and Google took away from the traditional media. And this is the equivalent now, cost per 1,000 impressions. This is the typical model. You pay for how many times an ad was seen. So you're only charged if a customer sees your ad. More impressions, and here's the important bit. More impressions on your advertisements typically means your ad is more relevant. Because if you think about it, why would Facebook or Google or YouTube want to show their customers or users ads that are not relevant to them? Okay, so if they're seeing in their numbers that ads are not relevant to them or to their customers, they're gonna refrain from showing your advertisement, thus having less impressions. So that's why it's important, and that's why we track it. Typically, if our campaigns are generating a good number of impressions, that's a good sign for us that our ad is receptive to the people that we're targeting to, and Facebook and Google kind of likes what we're doing and continues to allow us to advertise. So if this is still not clear in terms of impressions, my favorite analogy is this. Let's say you're going northbound to EDSA, northbound EDSA, and you see a billboard, right? So one of those billboards. You pass by, you go to work northbound, and you pass by there once a day, right? So every day for 5 days if you're working. You see that billboard 5 times a week, that counts as 5 impressions, even if you're just one person. So I can see the same ad a couple of different times a week, And all of those times that I see it would count as impressions, but I count as one person. And so uh, I could talk a little bit more about how this is also a little subjective, because you could just browse it through your screen and technically Facebook will count it as an impression. But that those technicalities, it's probably better to talk about them for some other time. And you just need to know that impressions are the number of times an ad was seen, and theoretically people can see your ad several times. Cost per view, so that's CPV. This is the buying model for many video view campaigns. So if you're running ads on YouTube or you're running Facebook ads with your videos, this is what you pay for. You pay for the views. Now, again, I don't want to be able to talk about the huge differences right now, but just so that you know, typically Facebook, you pay either for every 3 seconds that customer will watch your video, or 15 seconds, which is called through plays. That's the term for it. Why they track 3 seconds, I honestly don't know. It's not my favorite metric. It's kind of weird. We usually cap ourselves earliest at 15 seconds, which is the through play metric. Just because again, that at least encourages me to know that that our customers or our audience, started watching our videos. For YouTube, it's typically 6 seconds. If you've ever seen a YouTube ad, right, and then you see after a few seconds you're able to skip, an advertiser gets charged every time you complete those 5 seconds. So yeah, if you see a competitor, just let them run so that they get charged for it. That's not what I do. Next metric is it's called cost per click, and this is one of the more, I think this is one of the more prominent ones that you'll probably see or interact with a lot. Cost per click, very basically, it's how much you're charged for every click. This is especially prominent on Google ad platforms. This is their I'd say their anchor in terms of a buying model. And basically here you pay for how many times your ad was clicked and how much traffic you were brought. So if they click your link, they go to your website, that's typically how they pay for. That's typically what you pay for. Now again, there are several layers of nuances that you could probably do here. But just again, for simplicity's sake, just understand that CPC, your cost per click, you're basically just paying every time a customer clicks your ad. And this is typically measured by another metric, which I won't talk about. Which I won't talk about anymore later on, but just so that you guys know, it's called click-through rate. So it's the percentage of people who saw your ad and how many people clicked it. Now, this is really important, and the reason why cost per click is such a prominent buying model, it's because that typically your click-through rates, they will range from anywhere between 0.5% all the way to like 5%. So you're really looking at a small margin of people who are clicking your ads and going to your website. And that's why for advertisers like me, I'm willing to pay for those clicks, because that small percentage of people, they're most likely the people that I want to speak to. I mean, obviously, I'd like to speak to everyone, but the reality is I'm not going to be engaging to everyone. I'm not going to be relevant to everyone. Just that select few, just that 0.5 to 5% on average few. And I want to make sure that I pay for those results. I pay for those clicks. So that's why it's important. Now, conversions, they can be divided into two kinds of categories. And this is the simplest way to look at it. You have your cost per lead. This is the buying model typically for B2B or businesses. So for example, for us, this is how we track our advertisements. Our ad budget, how much are we paying per lead? So this is the metric. And you measure this by how many prospects you're able to generate online. Now, okay, this is where it gets a little subjective. Your cost per lead could mean different things for your business. So for simpler situations, for example, a cost per lead could just be, a lead could just be someone who answers your contact us form and sends that email out. That's a lead for me. But in our instance, for example, so if you go to our website, there are so many layers to be able to reach us. So for example, our bounce back blueprint page, our Google Ads page, our Contact Us page, our free audit page. There are so many kinds of leads. So we're able to track how much we're paying for leads for very specific services. So that's a decision that we made because we want to be able to measure our costs better. But for simplicity's sake, you could just have it all into one metric, which is just very simply your cost per lead. Now, cost per acquisition, this is the primary buying model for e-commerce businesses. Now, the difference here is that for the cost per lead model, they typically don't finish that transaction online. Okay, so let's say for example, for Huskee, we don't finish that transaction online. They reach out to us, we prospect them, we sign a contract, and then they pay us via check or online payments or bank deposits. I'm not able to track that whole payment journey after. So I'm not able to associate my ROI easily with my cost per lead model. But with my cost per acquisition, this is typically the model again assigned to e-commerce businesses. You're able to see that whole journey, right? From the first interaction all the way to when they make that online purchase. And that's really, really powerful stuff because now you're able to check how much you're paying for every conversion you're able to generate. So this is great because let's say, for example, for us, whenever we do talk to clients, how we like to have these conversations after we start running ads is that, okay, client, last month, we only paid 50 pesos per conversion. So we only paid 50 bucks on average. And they generated a total number of X revenue. And then what we would do together is we would look at the numbers, and then the client would tell me, okay, Mickey, let's double the budget and let's try to make sure that we're only paying 50 pesos to acquire that customer. If you guys didn't know, there's so much that goes into getting a customer, right? So for example, for us, all of the spend that we're doing so far with our online advertising, the Facebook ads that we're running, the Google search ads that we're running, all of that adds up, okay? And that costs money. And the CPA as a business model, it allows me to see if my marketing activities are profitable. So let's say, for example, let's say your cost per acquisition is, let's say, 500 pesos. That's crazy high, right? That's a lot. I'm basically telling you, you're gonna have to churn out 500 pesos for every new customer that you want. But if that customer is bringing me in 1,500 pesos in terms of profit, that's not bad, right? And having that conversation is super important because you're able to manage your finances better. Okay, last metric, very simply, it's the conversion rate. It's the percentage of typically website traffic that is converted into a sale or a lead. So this could either be the leads that you generated or through the CPL, or the new customers that you acquired, which is the CPA. Benchmarks here will vary, guys. It will vary, but typically you're looking at 1 to 5% on average. So that's it. That's really just the game. All the effort that you make into bringing people into your website, it all just boils down to that 1 to 5% of people that end up becoming your customers. And this is just on average. Sometimes you will go lower than this. In really great situations, you will go higher than that. All right. For the 95 participants that we have now, I know this is a little confusing. I understand, and I only gave you the basic buying models. There's a ton more. I could go on, but you really just need to understand what you're paying for, and once you start to dissect it, you're just gonna realize that it's very simple. It sounds complicated. It sounds scientific. Admittedly, sometimes I like talking about it just to make me sound smart, but once you really get down to the core of it, you're gonna understand. You're gonna realize that it's fairly easy to understand. All right. So going back here, what did we discuss? We said during acquisition campaigns, we're trying to sell the click, right? Retargeting, we're trying to sell the product, and retention, we're trying to sell the brand love. Each of these steps have metrics that are going to be more important than others. And typically, this is our recommendation. So for acquisition campaigns, you're only supposed to be really looking at cost per impressions and cost per video views, basically, or on average. This is the situation. Because again, what's the mindset? I'm not trying to sell them the product. I'm just trying to get them excited. I'm just trying to stay relevant. And impressions and video views are a really good measure or benchmark to show me that I am doing that. Okay, so it doesn't make sense for me here to measure my, for example, my cost per acquisition in the acquisition stage or the retargeting stage. Sorry, that I understand that can sound a little confusing, but you get what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to do that because my leads or my acquisitions doesn't happen until they get retargeted. Okay, so it's almost counterproductive for me to judge my acquisition campaigns based on that benchmark alone. Now, again, that's not to say it's impossible. I have closed, for our clients, we've closed business from just the acquisition or prospecting campaign alone. But I honestly like to think of it more as the exception than the actual rule. Most of our revenue and our sales will come from the retargeting, which is here you're better off tracking your cost per click, clicks back to the website, and how much you're spending to acquire that customer, meaning that they already bought from you. All right, so take a look at this, look at your marketing efforts, and see, okay, I'm actually still in the prospecting campaign. I'm supposed to be measuring video views, but I'm trying to measure already how many leads I'm generating. And that's where the frustration comes in with whoever it is you're working with, or maybe for yourself. There's that misalignment where you're really not supposed to be closing sales in the first place during this step. So why is that the benchmark of success? Okay, so you're going to have to revisit how you're looking at your marketing, and this is our recommended split for you depending on where you're at. The best way to look at it, guys, is just basically how much will it cost me to inspire my customers to take specific actions. So how much am I paying to get them to watch my video? How much am I paying to get them to click? How much am I paying for them to become my customers? That's basically what media buying models are. And just to kind of give you an overview of how it works in action, I want to show you what an advanced social media funnel looks like. There are a ton of other metrics. So again, like I said, there's just so many other metrics, and you want to be able to look at this as like one long funnel, right? Where you're moving one customer or one customer from one step to another. So we have the impressions that we were talking about, and then for advanced metrics, you have social media engagement numbers. You have that number before they turn into clicks. Those clicks, they turn into bounces. Those bounces, the ones that don't turn into bounces, rather, they turn into page views. These page views turn into qualified leads. They turn into conversion rate. So many different steps. And if you're not measuring the right metric, depending on the step that you are in, you're missing out on very key insights and the right decisions to make. Now, each hole, right, in your funnel requires a different treatment. And again, like, this is just going back to the point of this whole talk, which is, why is it important to measure all of these things in the first place? Like, why is it important to know what impressions are and how much I'm paying for it? And it's because it's exactly that. You have this whole journey that people are taking, and you're burning money. Each of those steps cost money. You have to understand that's not free, right? Each of those steps cost resources and money. And if you're not measuring how much you're paying per step, you might be overpaying for certain steps, or you might be underpaying for certain steps. And a lot of my job as the lead media manager, media buyer of my group, is that I have to diagnose these symptoms. So here's the challenge. Each step of that funnel, if it's not working, there are typically several reasons why it might not be working. So just to give you an example, going back to that funnel, let's say impressions. It's not clicking, right? It's not hitting the numbers that I want. I could be thinking here, okay, so are we targeting the right people? Is it the right piece of content? Is it the right targeting measures? So many different things to consider. When we move on to the social engagement stage, I ask myself, okay, is this the kind of content that they actually want to see? Is this engaging enough? Are we using the right keywords? You move over to bounce rates. You talk about, is my landing page interesting enough? Is my website mobile optimized? When you move on to qualifying, is my offer attractive enough? When you're at the tail end of the journey, you're asking yourself, is my sales process optimized? This sounds super crazy because it is. And again, I told you, that's just the world of marketing analytics. And honestly, my clients think of me as someone like this, where I'm a mad scientist and I'm adding concoctions and I know what I'm doing. But in reality, it feels a lot more like this. The world of your marketing funnel and measuring your analytics, it's so complex and it changes all the time. And there's so many factors, many of them that you see, many of them that you don't, that my mad scientist career kind of just looks like this, where I'm just sitting down here and just trying to figure stuff out. All right, but obviously that was a joke to my clients there. I know what I'm doing. I didn't mean to scare you. So going back, right, to this funnel, you're gonna have to realize that it's important to track all of these steps and look at the buying models per step, because again, there are so many conversations that need to be made for when a step is not working the way that it's supposed to. And if you don't know what you're measuring in the first place, what conversation is there to have? Okay, imagine the scenario, and I'm pretty sure many of you have been in this scenario in some time or another, or like yesterday, or just earlier. You're in a meeting, you're talking to your boss, you're talking to your client, and then you're all asking the same questions like, "What's wrong with our marketing?" Right? We're doing all of this, we're boosting ads, we're doing our TikTok stuff, but we're not converting. And it's like asking someone, okay, like this person is super sick. Why is he not well? It sounds kind of crazy. You have to diagnose, you have to look at the steps, you have to know what you're looking at per step. And that's why it's important to track. Now, again, this is a little overwhelming and I completely understand. Admittedly, even for me, as the clients get bigger, the funnels get bigger as well, and it's not as straightforward as the advanced one that I showed you. I tried to make a hardcore advanced. I tried to make a hardcore funnel and tried to fit it into this slide, but I couldn't put into art form how complex it can look like. So you just need to be able to relax. You want to start with just the basic funnels and work your way up. Now, am I saying, Miggy, am I saying to you guys, don't track the other metrics? That's not important. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that as a starting off point, you're really going to feel overwhelmed. And it would benefit you to start from the essentials, which for me is just these four things: the impressions that you're generating across all of your platforms, the clicks that you're getting, every time somebody clicks your ad to go to your website, how many conversions you're making, and of course, the percentage that you're converting. This is the standard funnel. Now, again, and I just want to stress this, I'm a fan of knowing as much as I can possibly know. Okay, so I will try to dissect every little piece of data that I'm given, but in the absence of that kind of understanding, it can be very easy to be overwhelmed. So I'm recommending, as a starter, you just look at these four things. And they're the essentials. They're tracking how many times your ads are being shown, right? How many clicks that you're getting, how many sales you're getting, whether that be leads or customers that you're acquiring in your e-commerce store, and how much of that, or how much of your traffic are you converting by your conversion rate. Four benchmarks, super easy to track, and what you want to be able to do is just work your way up. So if you recall that long funnel, right, you want to be able to just add layer after layer after layer, where until eventually you're looking at that full picture, as a conversation that you're going to be having with your marketing and your sales teams. All right, Miggy, so okay, you got me, I'm sold. I don't want to burn money. I don't want to palpitate. How do I set up my analytics? Okay, I'm going to briefly go over two of the most important analytic tools, or analytic or data tools that you're going to be using for your campaigns. Two things: Google Analytics and Facebook Pixels. Those are I would say, the pillars. There are obviously tons of other resources that you could use, but for your business, I'd say this probably covers a good majority of your data already. Now, I want to be able to share a couple of tools that will help you. So, for your Google Analytics, you want to be able to download the Google Tag Assistant. Okay, so this is an extension that you can have on your Chrome that allows you to check whether or not you have your Google Analytics account running. Now, sorry, forgive me, I missed that part. You're able to register on analytics.google.com, and you can put your website and install your tracking code there. Now, how you install this will vary per per kind of website that you have. So, for example, it would be different if you built your website on WordPress, if you built it on Shopify. I'll probably answer that in a different piece of content, or maybe later during the Q&A. But basically, that's it. Go to analytics.google.com, sign up, and then you're able to install that small tracking code on your website that will allow you to track your Google website data. And how you are able to check if it's working is the Google Tag Assistant. Okay, the second one, and the equivalent of that for Facebook, is the Facebook Pixel Helper. Same thing, it's an extension, you download it, it's on your Chrome, and then it helps you check whether or not your Pixel is working properly. So again, for the non-tech savvy there, your Facebook Pixel is a small line of code that you install on your website, and it does the same thing. It tracks all of the activity that happens on your website. Excuse me. Yeah, so this is the Pixel, and sorry, this is the Pixel in action. So this is our website, and once you install the Pixel, you click that button, and you're able to check if the Pixel that you had installed is working properly. So I also like to check this for my clients, or my prospects rather. So when I'm about to enter a meeting with a prospective client, I will typically check if they have a Facebook Pixel installed, because I have found that when they don't, I know that they're not tracking their marketing data properly, because it's almost impossible to do that without this Pixel. Now, for the Google Tag Assistant, it's the same concept. It will show you what Google tags, or what tracking measures are being installed, and it's the same thing. I will track this for I will look at this for my clients or my prospects, and if they don't have this, I know that they're not tracking their website holistically. Now, I feel like these are the two non-negotiables. But if there was a priority to set up, for me, it would be the Google Analytics, because in a few slides, I'll show you what you can kind of find out with with having your Google Analytics account installed properly. But yeah, I would have those two things. They're almost like a 1-2 punch. But if you had to start on one first, the Google Analytics would be my answer to that. Okay, you might have noticed I have errors there. I have a plugin on my website that blocks my IP address. So, I don't want to be talking about Google Analytics and then have you guys point out, but Miggy, you have an error there. No, it's by purpose. It's on purpose, because I don't want my website activity to be tracked whenever I'm on my website, because I check my website like 100 times a day, and I test things around. I check if things are working. I read the content that I just wrote from the perspective of my customers, because it's a different experience, and I just want to make sure. So yeah, don't hold that against me. All right. So for your Google Analytics, all the insights you need to make better marketing decisions are there, and I want to be able to show you what you're able to track. So this is a Google Analytics account of a client. I'm happy. This is just last month. So side note, I don't believe that e-commerce during the whole pandemic thing is dead. In fact, it's thriving. So this was just the last 30 days for this client. You're able to look at this. So if installed properly, you're able to track how many users were on your website, how much sales you're able to close, right? The conversion rate that you had, the sessions that you're generating. And there's just so many different things. There's so many layers that you're able to find out. So if you notice on the left side, so when I click audience and I get this really nice overview, I'm able to check all of this data. I'm able to see how much of my traffic are actually new users. So in this instance, this is crazy. 24,000 plus users on my website, but 23,000 of those were new traffic. That's great for me, right? So I'm happy that there were 1,000 people who came back to my website, but I'm even more ecstatic by the fact that there were 23,000 people who were new to my website. Okay, so I'm able to track all of these very important measures. If you click the acquisition, so that's again a button on the left, you're able to see this kind of data, right? You're seeing, okay, my traffic's actually coming from social, or direct traffic means these are people who are typing in my website directly to the browser. I'm able to look at how many users I'm able to generate. If you don't know what a bounce rate is the percentage of people who leave your website without interacting with any piece of content. So if they load the screen and they leave immediately, that counts as a bounce, and obviously that's bad. So the lower the bounce rate, the better. And the benchmark for healthy bounce rates are about 30 to 50%. I know 50% sounds like a lot, but in reality, like that's a good number already. So if you're able to keep it around that range, that would be great. So in this instance, at 38%, I'm super happy with this already. Okay. When you bring it down a layer lower, okay, and I'm looking at the sources, guys. So you're looking at the sources of my online traffic. With Google Analytics installed, I can see all of this. I can see how many users are coming. So in this case, like, wow, it's crazy. Most of my traffic is coming from social. I'm able to see how many sessions, how many website pages they're able to view and they're able to load. I'm able to look at their behavior. I'm looking at bounce rates. I'm looking at how long they were on my website. I'm looking at how long each session was. So if you guys look at this, very, very interesting. If you look at my organic search, so these are people who searched my client's brand on Google and then went to their website. Look how crazy that is. Our bounce rate here is 32%. They averaged almost 12 pages per session. That's crazy. They looked at 12 pages of my client's website, and they spent 7 minutes compared to social media traffic, which is 4 minutes, my direct traffic, which is the same, about 4 minutes, my email traffic, which is half of that. So many things that you can find out just by having your analytics. And of course, my conversion rate, most important one. Now check this out. Organic search traffic, crazy, 5.54% compared to other sources. And obviously, the revenue is also more important. Now, look at the thought exercise here, guys. When you're having these marketing meetings and you're asking yourself, okay, like what am I going to do, or where am I falling off, or what's driving my success and what's stopping my success? Without this information, I wouldn't know, or I wouldn't be able to validate that my social media traffic's actually killing it. That all things considered, I have a 3.26% conversion rate and it's driving a bulk of my revenue. That's a good day for me, right? Versus my organic search and my email traffic. Now, let's say we do this. Let's say I had done an so I don't have an email marketing campaign up for this client, but let's say I had one, and I'm charging my client this amount. I'm doing all of these content. I'm sending out these emails, and I've only driven about $60 worth of sales for a service that I'm typically charging, let's say, 5 times or 50 times more. If I didn't have this information, my client wouldn't know that we're actually not driving any sales. She would have to take my word for it that we're driving sales. But again, obviously, because I'm not like that and I'm very transparent with my data, we're able to make better decisions just by having this information. Now, for Facebook, it allows you to get very powerful ad retargeting capabilities across Facebook and Instagram platforms. And when you install your pixel properly, you're able to get information like this. So again, look at this. I'm able to see how many times a page in my website was viewed. I'm able to see if they were looking at very specific content. I'm able to see how many times they added to cart. I'm able to see how many times they made a purchase or how many transactions I was able to make. Now check this out, guys. I had about 2,000 more or less conversions for this client. And That's great, right? I'm super happy with that. But check this out, guys. 2,000 people or 2,000 conversions happen. Let's say, just for simplicity's sake, these are 2,000 unique people. 2,000 unique people purchased from my website. Great. But look at the add to cart. I had 14,000 people on that step alone, but for some reason, 12,000 of them said, "Nah, never mind. Like I'm not gonna make this purchase." Okay. Now for me, that's what I want to be able to focus on. So I'm thinking, I had 2,000 sales. I had 2,000 customers. But there were 12,000 customers that didn't want to make that purchase. That seems a little bit odd for me. So now I'm going to look back at my add to cart. I'm going to see if it's easy. I'm going to see if my product was very interesting enough. There's so many things. And again, if I don't have that information, I'm not going to be able to know that. And if you move back further into that funnel, you're going to realize, like, wow, 400,000 people actually went to my website, but only 2,000 of them made a purchase. And when you're trying to increase your sales, you're thinking, okay, am I going to be satisfied with the fact that I had 2,000 people buy? Or am I going to be frustrated with the fact that I had 398,000 people go to my website, but they didn't make a purchase? Right? And again, in the absence of that data, you won't have very solid conversations with your client or your boss. You're just gonna kind of guess, like, oh, okay, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Without information like this, you're going to be working with a lot of uncertainty and you're going to be taking a lot of risk. Right. So again, just to show you, because I have the Pixel installed, because Facebook is a really nice platform, I'm able to track how many impressions I'm able to generate, right? Oh, guys, so notice this. There are, on the left, you see reach, right? That's 28,000 unique people. 28,000 unique people shared over 170,000 of those impressions. So sorry, I don't have access to my calculator right now, but you're able to compute that. 170,000 impressions divided by 28,000 people. That's, I'd say, at least 5 times. Sorry, don't quote me on that. Yeah, at least 5 times. That's at least 5 times. So on average, my customers saw our advertisements at least 5 times. So that's what you're working with. And so again, I'm able to track my cost per acquisition or my cost per result, which is here. It only costs me 30 pesos to get one purchase. So it's like if I gave 30 pesos all around, right? If I gave money all around to make a purchase, on average, it costs me 30 bucks to get someone to purchase for me. And then obviously, this is how much I've spent so far. I've only spent about under 6,000 pesos. And I was able to generate 260,000 pesos in sales. So how I like to look at it, guys, very simple. Information is power. Okay? Information is power. You could be savvy, you could be technically proficient, you could be very creative. But without the right information, none of those things I feel like matters as much. Because more data means less risk. Okay? Now, you're never going to approach your marketing campaigns without a degree of risk. It doesn't matter how big your brand is, or how on point your targeting is. There's always risk involved, because if this was a risk-free endeavor, everybody would be profitable and everybody would be making money and everyone would have an e-commerce website. That's not the case, right? There is a degree of risk here. And you want to cover your bases by having your Google Analytics installed, by having your Facebook Pixel installed, because if you collect more data, you make smarter decisions, you make smarter risks, and you're able to increase the likelihood of success. So my job as a media buyer, as the marketing agency for my client, it's to mitigate that risk. I never guarantee 100% results. I never do. And if you come across a marketer or an agency that can guarantee you a certain number, I will call bluff. That's bullshit. Call that bluff, because that doesn't make any sense. There's always a degree of risk. And I can get you up until a certain percentage of certainty, but there will always be that lingering degree of uncertainty. And the more that I know about my customers, the more that I can minimize that risk or that uncertainty for my client. So think about that, guys. The more that you know, the more you're able to make better decisions. So more data means less risk. All right. So I also touched on how I can calculate my ad budget. Very important because again, this is the money that I'm putting in to the buying models that we discussed earlier. Now, I will stress this till the end of my days. Always, always, always base your budget on past performance or internal benchmarks. Now, outside data is nice. Industry standards are nice. I like looking at it. It's nice to look at. It makes me feel smart. It adds to my knowledge as to where I'm supposed to be. But that comes second to internal benchmarks. That's the most important part. That's the most important part because no two companies, especially in the same industry, are 100% the same, right? So let's say, for example, if you were to compare my benchmarks to the benchmarks of, say, let's say the biggest agencies in Metro Manila, like Ogilvy or Publicis, that's crazy. Like you can't compare; those are two different situations. So for me to base my entire campaigns or my entire operations solely on outside perspective or outside data, I feel like is really foolish. Nice to consult, nice to look at, nice to be able to reference, but most important for any benchmarking is your own. All right, so how do I like to do that? This is the math, right? So let's say a client tells me, okay, Miggy, you have 15,000 pesos budget. And after we spend that for about a month, I'm able to generate 100,000 impressions. We get like 3,000 clicks. There are 150 purchases, and we convert about 5% of that. Let's say the average purchase is about 700 pesos. We generate over 100,000 pesos in sales because we generated 150 purchases. And my return on ad spend is basically 7x. So I tell my client, okay, client, I turned your 15,000 into 105,000 bucks, right? I'm so good. Let's spend 30,000 next month and let's get double the results. Now, if it were that easy and if it were that certain, many people would be rich, everyone would have an e-commerce store, and nobody would be losing money. But again, the reality is it's not that simple. Things change so quickly. Like pay-per-click advertising is both a science and an art. Okay, Facebook and Google never, and they never will talk about the exact formula for you. They will give you guidelines, right? They will tell you best case practices, and they will tell you what not to do or what to do, but they won't tell you exactly how it works. So a part of that is always going to be ambiguous, and that's where a lot of the art comes in. That's where a lot of the figuring out and asking the right questions come in. The reality here, guys, is that your budget, your 15,000 pesos per month, it will get you, let's say, 150 purchases this month, but there's no guarantee that you can get that same number that next month because again, different situation, different environment. I have had instances, guys, where I spent more money and I actually got less results. Right? My client was better off just not spending that money in the first place. So that same instance where they looked at the results, they really liked it, and they told me, Miggy, go spend double. And younger Miggy being naive, I'm like, yeah, I gotta spend more money. I'm gonna double results. I'm gonna look so good. And then after we spend that money, I come back to my client and tell them, oh, you know what? We sold the same number. We sold 150 still. And I was just left scratching my head. And that's just the reality. Even now, right? Even now, I'm constantly surprised by how far we're able to go. So yeah, like a lot of my job just kind of looks like this. I wake up in the morning, I have my morning coffee, I'm looking at my advertising, and I'm thinking, what the heck? This was spending. We were getting 2x, 3x ROI on this ad last week, and now we're at a negative. I'm actually losing money. It's crazy. And what you want to be able to do is just be able to, just tinker around with that and make sure that the fluctuations don't happen as bad. That's the best thing that you can that you can kind of go for. That you want your good to be great, and you want your horrible to be as less horrible as possible. And eventually, what you're going to end up having is having benchmarks that you can more or less kind of count on. Again, it's going to fluctuate, right? Sometimes you'll have good months, sometimes you'll have bad months, but you will have that benchmark or those sets of metrics to go back to. So just to share, right? Just to share, because even if I tell this to clients, they are still not satisfied with. Oh, they'll always ask me, okay, so Miggy, like, how much do we spend? These are my internal benchmarks for whenever a client does not have any data and they continue to nag me on how much they should be spending. My benchmark usually is about 50 pesos per 1,000 impressions. So if I want to buy X number of impressions, I will base it on my 50 bucks. That's my usual train of thought. Now, where did I get 50 pesos? If I add up all of the money that I've ever spent, which I did before, just as a reference, and I looked at all of the results that we ever got, I hovered around 50 pesos on average across all of my clients across all industries. Some industries cost me 20 pesos per 1,000 impressions. Other industries, 150 pesos, 200 pesos. It gets kind of crazy. It fluctuates depending on industry, product, timing, whatever. But as a thought exercise, I stick with 50 pesos. And then I build my benchmarks after. Okay, so 50 pesos to start. My clicks, this will range from 2 pesos to 50 pesos. I will show you exactly how I compete for this in a few slides. Obviously, your conversions, it will vary. And your conversion rate, you're looking at about 1 to 2% of clicks. Again, you work your you work your mind off to get that 1 to 2% conversions. Now, if you can get better, that's great. I've known people who are constantly closing like 5, 10, sometimes 12, 15% of conversions. But more often than not, that's not sustainable. You will have those really good months, but on average, it should be in the single digits. Okay. Because we get this question so much, we actually made an ROI calculator. So if you go on our website and you go to services, you're going to see a really simple ROI calculator that we made to help you answer your questions, to help you budget better. And if in the absence again of benchmarks, there are platforms like WordStream that produce research for free that you're able to look at. So that's you just have to go to wordstream.com and search for this infographic. So they'll give you the click-through rate that you're looking at and then the cost per click. So again, like this is one of my references. Now, again, I like to stress that internal benchmarks are always better than industry standards, okay? Industry standards will always just be a reference point for me. It won't be the standard to which I will hold all of my advertising to. It just shows me how far off I am with everyone else. But again, that's average. That's averaged out. And internal benchmarks are my preferred method. Now, just to kind of break down that whole process. Sorry, I know that I said a lot and you might not have gotten everything. I want to recap it for your reference. So typically, I will spend about 5,000 to 10,000 pesos or 10% of a budget in building internal benchmarks. You got that? Okay, like that's not super tactical. 5 to 10,000 pesos in a span of like 2 to 3 weeks, or 10% of the total budget that I was tasked to spend. I will set benchmarks for the necessary marketing data of the client. So again, going back to the previous slide, right? After I spend, let's say, 10,000 pesos, I will tell my client, for our 10,000 pesos, our internal benchmarks, it will cost us X amount to get CPM, it will cost us X amount to get clicks, it will cost us X amount for conversions. And those are my benchmarks. Now, that's super conservative because that's the first time that I'm advertising or it's the first time that I'm doing this. It's going to change. But you need a floor to work with so that you know where to build. So my goal now is to tell my client, okay, client, this is the floor that we're building for 10,000 pesos. I want to make sure that I build that up so much so that my current roof becomes my new floor and I build on top of that. So I set those benchmarks and then that's what we work with. For social media, again, we look at engagement numbers, click-through rates. For website, we look at page views and the bounce rates. And then we proposed the architecture for paid media campaign. So remember the slide earlier where I talked about the three stages: the acquisition, retargeting, retention. I will have that infrastructure, and I'll show the client what we're going to be doing. Our general rule of thumb is spending about 60 to 70% on acquisition. Now, um, I defended this so passionately in my other webinars. So if you want to see my speech on why we spend 60 to 70% budget on acquisition, you can watch it there. But basically, just as like a three-liner, just a short summary, I am paying. I'm looking through all of these people online, and I really just want to speak to my core group, right? The people who are super interested in my product or my service, and I'm not able to do that. I'm not able to retarget to a small base of people. So that's why a bulk of my budget generally goes to acquisition, because I'm competing with competitor brands, and I'm competing with substitute products. There's just so many things happening. I just want a bigger base of people to work with. We do a lot of A/B testing. We test demographics. We look at audiences. We see what works and what doesn't. And I like to do the testing for at least a month total. So again, we will stretch that out for like 2 to 3 weeks. We will tweak a little bit and then finish off that final week where we have like a total month of building benchmarks. And then that's what we go with, and that's what we work with. And then I will tell the client, present to them, and tell them, okay, this is what we're going to be spending. This is our price list. If the client tells me, hey Miggy, like what's 50,000 bucks gonna get me? Let's check the price list that we set. All right. So for our 10K budget, again, what I want to be able to tell the client is, okay, client, it cost us 200 pesos to 200 pesos to get 1,000 CPM. It cost us about 17 pesos per click. It cost us about 200 pesos per conversion, and my conversion rate is quite 0.8, about 8.3%. And the rest of my job is just setting and optimizing. That's it, right? I have I had a friend, because he's vaguely familiar with Facebook advertising, but he knows that I do Facebook advertising, and he thought it was glamorous because I'm clicking lots of buttons. I'm the master of the internet because I'm showing you my advertisements. But in reality, it's looking at numbers, it's clicking, it's testing, it's doing all of these things, and it makes me kind of feel like that dog picture that I shared earlier, and that's really the goal. And going back again to the metrics that we're measuring, right? And this is, if you guys notice, this is the basic funnel that I had recommended to you. My job after this, after showing my client, okay, client, month one benchmarks done. This is what we're going for. My goal is to make sure that I drop that 200 pesos per conversion to 150 per conversion, to 100, to 50, to 20, so that my client is converting higher. Or I tell my client, you know what, we got to work on our clicks. We got to generate more because this is our current Achilles heel, right? That's the conversations that I'm able to have with data. Just imagine, guys, how hard it would be in the absence of this price list or this information. We don't know. And here's the reality, guys. Facebook and Google, they don't care if you don't make money. Because if you win, you'll spend more money because the advertising is working. If you lose, they took your money. They're like a casino, right? They never lose. There's no losing with them. You average everything out, they win more often than not. And if you're not wary, if you're not concerned with how much you're spending and what you're getting in return, you really could be losing money in the long run. All right, last bit, and then I'm gonna answer some questions. So, how I like to spy on competitors and kind of figure out if they're spending money or not, right? This is my favorite exercise, and I thought to do it for Huskee. So, for us, obviously, right? If a client or a prospect would want to search for an agency, they will look for digital marketing agency. Now, this is super simple. You can search your competitors, but this is important for me because I want to know who among my competitors are spending money, right? So in this instance, these are big agencies: Spiralytics, AMPH, GetHook, Berkshire. These are some of the big guys. I know that they're spending money. And because I know, because I know it's a cost per click model, sometimes I will click on my competitor's ad and they get charged for that. So yeah, don't tell them. um, this is another tool that I like. So when you set up a Google Ads account, you get access to a free tool, which is the Google Ads Keyword Planner. Now, how this helps me with my clients is super cool. So I get to discover new keywords, meaning other agencies that are buying the keywords. Like for example, the example earlier, where those agencies they were buying digital marketing agency as a keyword. If I search that keyword here, I'm able to see the competition level, meaning how many other agencies are bidding for these same keywords and how much it would cost me. So if you guys notice here, in the very first row, digital marketing, sorry, like I should have extended that keyword. Digital marketing, the competition is wow, fairly low, but it costs me anywhere from 13 pesos to 150 pesos per click, right? Per click. That's not like impressions. That's per click. So when I go back to the drawing board and I'm costing out, I'm looking at this. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna be spending anything from 13 pesos to 150 pesos per click to my website. So that gives me a better idea of the mileage of my budget, right? So that's why it's super important. So look at the keywords that your competitors are buying, go to the keyword planner, look at it there also, and then look at how okay, like this is how much I'm going to be spending on average based on Google's forecasting. Another thing that I like to do is stock the ads that my competitors are running on Facebook. So if you guys didn't know that, and I just want to make that announcement, you are able to see the advertisements of any business on Facebook. Any business. So in this instance, so like these guys, this is King Kong Digital Marketing. They're an agency based in Australia. I follow them. I use a lot of their I consume a lot of their content, and I like looking at their ads from time to time. So go to your competitors page, scroll down a bit, and then you'll see page transparency. You want to click that. When you click that, you'll have a screen like this. You'll see when the page was created, how many times it was changed, where the people are managing it from. But the most interesting bit here is ads from this page. So you go to ad library, and you're going to go to a screen like this where you see all of the ads that they're running in your country, right, or anywhere in the world. Every single ad, every ad. And what you can even do is you can click on those ads and you can see the copy that they're writing, and you can see the content that they have. Like you don't even have to get hit by the ad. You can kind of check out what they're doing. So again, what I like to do is whenever I'm prospecting a client, I will check out their Facebook page. And if they're not running ads, I know that they're probably not serious yet about their pay-per-click advertising. But if they're running ads, that's actually great for me because now I know that okay, they're kind of serious about it, but they're reaching out to me because they want to be more serious about it, right? So super cool. You can do that for free. I do it all the time. I check out my competitors. I check out random brands. I like to look at the copy that they're using, the keywords that they're trying out. Sorry, and of course the content that they have. And so one other thing that you guys can do again to spy on your competitors. Remember the pixel, super important. Again, I'm able to check if they're tracking their pixel properly. Oh, sorry. Yeah, if they're able to track their pixel, they're able to track the data properly. That's very important for me to know because again, sorry, like you could be running those ads that I showed you earlier, but if they didn't set up the pixel properly, none of that traffic will be measured. So that's again good reference point for me to know how I stack up with my competitors, or just for fun, which is typically what I do. I look at that stuff for fun. So yeah, really amazing stuff. Sorry I geeked out a bit. I understand it's almost been an hour, so I'm really again really passionate about these kinds of things, not so much well, obviously because I find it super interesting, but I also just see how this information has helped my clients succeed. and that becomes my kind of my kind of motivation to learn as much as I can. I try to get all of the information that I am able to get on the internet. I look at pixels, I look at Google search data, I look at Facebook ads, because all of that information mitigates my risk. If they're already saying these things, what on their ads, why would I want to bump heads with them, right? Or if they're spending this much, now I know, okay, like this is how much I need to be spending also if I want to get these kinds of results. So information as much as you can get is great for you and your business, and the more that you know, the easier it will be to have these conversations. All right, so I just want to be able to talk about some of our upcoming webinars before we move into Q&A. I see the little button over there. It's like crazy. There's just I think there is, I think, 22 questions or 22 responses already. Uh, the next webinar that we have, it's called The Search is Over. Excuse me. It's a webinar on Google search advertising. So it's gonna happen next week on Thursday. And we're going to tackle just the very fundamentals of what Google ads are and how you can use Google search ads. Now, there's a whole different conversation to be had with Google display ads, with Google shopping ads, with Google mobile ads, with video ads. It's crazy. Okay, but for most businesses, and I'd say a good number of businesses, they're able to benefit from search ads. So that's what we're gonna kind of focus on. Other sessions in the works. So we'll be scheduling blueprinting sessions again soon. So if you downloaded our blueprint, which I hope you did, we're going to have sessions where I'll be filling up the blueprint for a fake client just to kind of show you how I would do it, and then answer some of your questions on how to fill it up and how it might work or anything in that regard. We're also trying to come up with a creating your own content strategy webinar, so that's coming in soon. And sooner or later, yeah, within the month, we do expect we'll start tackling a little bit on marketing automation via HubSpot, which is like how to use the HubSpot CRM. HubSpot, if you didn't know, they're a software company that has marketing, sales, and service tools. They have a lot of these free tools that help marketers like me scale our advertising. So we're actually a HubSpot certified agency partner, and we want to be able to talk about some of their free tools. So we're going to be doing that soon. And of course, marketing automation, one of the favorite things that I like to talk about too. All right, so last word on inbound marketing. We're all feeling this weight, right, of the pandemic. But I truly believe that now is not the time to be selfish. And if you look at it that way, where it's not the time to be selfish and it's actually the time to be value adding, you want to take all of these steps to ensure that you can serve your customers better. And for me, the essence of inbound marketing is context. Understanding where my customers are, what they're doing, how they're interacting with my business, and working from there. Making assumptions without that context or making decisions without that context, I feel like is very selfish because you're assuming you know what the customer likes. You're assuming what they think or what they know or how they interact. And without that data, I'm not able to be as helpful or as engaging as I want to be. And I truly believe, guys, that the most value adding business will win this pandemic. These next few months, the business that can create the most relationships, that is as value adding as possible, those are the true winners of the situation. So to end, I want to share this quote that I will soon have tattooed on my back. Empathy is a marketer's greatest strength. And if I were to just sum up the whole inbound marketing methodology into one sentence, it would be this: give before you take. Ask yourself not how much more I can sell or how much more I can ask for my clients, but ask yourself, how do I give value first before I ask my customers to do anything for me? And when that becomes the central theme of your marketing, good things tend to happen. And I've seen it, and I'm a believer, and that's why I continue to preach it, because good marketing makes a positive impact on people. And if you give before you take, you'll see that come back to you one way or another. All right, so thank you so much. Send us a woof if you need any help or if you have any questions.